Good afternoon. This meeting of the Liverpool Plains Shire Council is being recorded, and a webcast of this meeting will be published onto Council's website at www.liverpoolplains.newsouthwales.gov.au, so that it is available for viewing by members of the public. Please stand for Councillor Jason Allen to recite the acknowledgement of public application.
Today we gather on the lands of the Kamilaroi Nation. We therefore need to acknowledge the traditional owners and the custodians of this land. We also pay our respects to the Aboriginal elders, both past and present, and further extend that respect to other adults who have joined us today. Council prayer. Lord, we ask you that you watch over this council, guide us in our deliberations and decisions for the betterment of all the people of our Shire and Australia.
James. William James, please. One point one, application for attendance via audio and visual link. Recommendation that the application submitted by Councillor Charlie Simpkin in respect of attending the meeting by audio visual link be accepted due to work commitments. Do I have a motion? Councillor Lawson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kane. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Recommendation is the motion that the application be accepted.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Apologies and applications for a leave of absence by councillors. Are there any apologies or applications of leave of absence? Leave of absence. Confirmation of minutes. 3.1 minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 16th of October 2024. A recommendation that the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 16th of October 2024 be received and the recommendation therein be adopted. Do I have a motion? Councillor Allen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cohen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Uh, 3.2 minutes of the council meeting held on the 23rd of October 2024. Recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 23rd of October 2024 be received and the recommendations therein be adopted. Do I have a motion? Councillor Kane. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Robertson. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Disclosures of interests. Are there any conflicts of interest in matters under consideration of the ordinary meeting in accordance with Part 4 and Part 5 of the Code of Conduct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I provide services to Liverpool Plains Shire Council in the areas of water and wastewater. In reviewing the business paper for November 2024, I do not believe there are any decisions that a councillor, as a councillor I should say, I'll be asked to make where I have conflict. However, Should any questions or discussions arise in relation to report 6.13, table 5, water services, page 320 of the business paper, Grindale Water Supply automation upgrade, Grindale wastewater pump station 3 and 5 upgrades, Karuna Reservoir roof replacements, Blackfield and Fremont bore possible upgrades. I will declare a procurement of interest and leave the chamber while these matters are discussed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Kane. Five point one, mayoral minute, October 2024. Recommendation that council receive and note the mayoral minute for October 2024. I would like to move this report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lawson. Anyone wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. 6.1, Executive Services Report, October 2024. The recommendation that council receive and note the Executive Services Report for October 2024. Do I have a motion? Councillor Cohen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Allen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, I speak.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. 6.2, Resolution Register Update. The recommendation that council receive and note the resolution register as at the 12th of November 2024, appended at Annexure A, and the resolution register for 2022 and 2023 is appended at Annexure B. Do I have a motion? Councillor Allen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lawson. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Not. All in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. 6.3, Australia Day Awards Selection Panel. The recommendation that Council 1 endorse the selection panel for the Australia Day Awards to consist of 2 councillors and 2 staff members. 2, nominate Councillor Bex and Councillor White be the council representatives for the panel. Do I have 2 councillors wishing to nominate, please? So Councillor Allen and Councillor Robinson, you both wish to nominate?
Yeah, but he got his hand up.
No, it's in it, so 2.
Yep.
So I'll just reread the recommendation then. So the recommendation the council endorse the selection panel for the Australian Awards consists of 2 councillors and 2 staff members. Number 2, nominate Councillor Allen and Councillor Robertson to be the councillor representatives for the panel. Do I have a motion? Councillor Kane, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cohen, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion?
I'd just like to say that I'm grateful for this opportunity to put people forward.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. If there's no one else wishing to speak for or against the motion, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.4, Corporate and Community Services Director's Report, October 2024. The recommendation for Council 1, receive and note the Corporate and Community Services Directorate Update Report for October 2024. Do I have a motion? Councillor Cohen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Williamson. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to comment in relation to the aquatic studies for the Creek Memorial Tour. Having been there recently, I noticed a considerable amount of water still coming up by the north. Just want to get a bit of an update as to just exactly where we are and what sort of situation that facility might be in, and what if we're looking at any further costs in relation to it that have not been budgeted or we're not aware of.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the off-season, we spent considerable amount of effort on trying to resolve the leaking issue. We believe that we have, in previous years, it was, I think it was in the order of 200 megalitres a day being lost. It's reduced down now to about 80. We have identified where we believe that final leak is. And unfortunately, that's underneath the pool. It's the piping that's underneath the pool. We identified that, I suppose, late in the season, and because it's quite specialised work, the people who we went out and we got a quote to do the works. It came in significantly more than what we anticipated. That would have required us to go to a tender process. And the works will not have been completed by the season opening. Well, obviously, as I said, we're aware of what the issue is now, and we believe we've got a solution. And hopefully, the last time we have to talk about it, then I'll be able to tell you next year that there'll be no more work. But some of the works that we did do was replace the balance tank where there were some leaks. We identified some leaking pipes. We changed, replaced the expansion joints in the pool. We repainted the pool, which also helps with leakage and those sorts of things. So we certainly did quite a significant, we did a significant amount of work to try to resolve the issue, but just couldn't get the final bit done.
I guess the colour.
So, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Cross, for that update. And look, yeah, I appreciate the work that was done and the cost of what that the community do. And I also realise fully that you need to keep one of our facilities open during the season. So, yeah, I commend the council staff and doing what they have done.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.5 adoption of the 2023-2024 financial statement. The recommendation that council one receive and adopt the financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2024, incorporating the general purpose financial statements, special purpose financial statements, and special schedules as tabled. 2, authorise the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, General Manager and Responsible Accounting Officer to sign the statements by councillors and management pursuant to section 413(2)(c) of the Local Government Act of 1993 and clause 215 of the Local Government General Regulation 2021. 3, delegate the General Manager to submit the financial statements to the Office of Local Government pursuant to section 417 of the Local Government Act 1993. 4, exhibit the financial statements and auditors report and invite public submissions on those documents pursuant to section 420 of the Local Government Act 1993. 5, note that the audited financial statements and auditors reports will be presented to the public at the ordinary meeting of council on the 27th of November 2024 in accordance with section 418(1) of the Local Government Act of 1993. Do I have a motion? Councillor Lawson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Adler. Does The mover wish to speak to the motion.
Yes, thank you. Just to check on point 2, did we not already move that part at the previous council meeting?
The general manager, I think, did.
Yes, we did, but we do still need to sign this set of documents as they've gone through the audit process. You are not, signing was to say, to allow us then to forward them onto the audit technical, or onto the audit office.
So is the audit now being completed, or this is just in preparation for when it is completed that we sign the documents then?
Dan?
Yes, this is an audit set of accounts, so yes.
Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Just quickly, can I ask Mr. Frost just to give, for the new councillors, just to give a bit of an overview of the financial implications of this document, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see, it's quite an extensive amount of work that goes into preparing these financial statements, and as I've said, they've been audited by our external auditor, which is in fact the New South Wales Audit Office. The report that's in front of you covering addresses some of the key financial implications, and I'll just talk to a couple of those things, and then I'll talk to some material, I suppose, variations in terms of what we expected from our budget and where we ended up in actual. So on page 61 of the business paper, the financial implications show that we have net assets in the order of 619 million dollars compared to 589 million, I think, in the previous year. That's in part due to our assets being revalued, which attributes $22 million of that increase. The other relates to work in progress projects being completed and those matters being picked up on our asset register. Our cash reserves at the end of 30 June was $43.72 million, with unrestricted cash reserves of just under $700,000. 70, I should say. Yes, I'm getting confused here. I'm wishing it was 700, but anyway. And there's a report that Council will deal with shortly that addresses our unrestricted reserves and our internally restricted reserves. Our operating result of $3.03 million was comparable to our budget, but there are some material differences in the budget and what we ended up as actuals. And whilst at the end of the day, those bottom line numbers appear similar, there are a range of things that I'll talk to shortly. And I think, one of the key things and one of the challenges we have when we compare year to year is the amount of grant funding that we receive can fluctuate quite significantly, and that sort of makes a year-to-year comparison a little bit difficult at times. But if you go to, in the document itself, page 3 is our income statement, and it sort of goes through the key areas in the budget. And you'll see next to each of those items there, a column called notes, and that refers you to further work within the document that actually explains certain matters. Probably the most significant one is our performance against budget note, and on page 25 it runs through the material budget variations. I'll just talk to a couple of those. User charges and fees, our budget was in the order of $5.7 million, but in reality what we achieved was $4.7 million, so a variation of $1 million. Our budget included an internal charge of gravel of around $1.5 million to do work on council roads and so forth. Our application for grant funding related to that work was not achieved. So as a result, those works weren't done. The $1.5 million reduction in user charges and fees is offset obviously by a reduction in materials and services because we didn't actually spend that money. So that sort of balances itself out. There were some positives in that space. User charges for water usage was up in the order of $294,000 due to drier and warmer weather, and $193,000 for works completed on state roads on behalf of the state government. Other revenues, there's a variation there of and a positive variation of around $240,000. It includes $107,000 from insurance recoveries and $186,000 from sale of council land. Operating grants and contributions, and this is one of those areas that I just mentioned before. Our budget expected the financial assistance grant from the government to be 100% paid in the 24 financial year, but we only received 80% of that, so that resulted in a reduction of around $456,000. And as I said before, some of our grant funding applications that we were looking to achieve, that was lower by $2.1 million. So the comparison year to year of $13.6 million versus an actual of 10.4 is explained there. Capital grants and contributions, that does relate to projects not proceeding at the rate that we had anticipated in the budget. Obviously, a big one is the Werris Creek Industrial Precinct of around $12 million. Some things relating to the Corindi's sewer treatment plant and the Willow Tree landfill. And obviously, if we're not completing the work, then we can't put the wheels in and we can't receive those funds. So that's what causes those delays. On the good side, we budgeted for $557,000 in interest rates, interest investment return, but achieved in the order of $2.2 million, which reflects some of our projects where the state and federal government have prepaid our project. We've been able to, and if those projects have not proceeded at the rate we wanted to, or in the case of the Corindi Aquatic Centre, the state provided us that money well in advance of the start of that project. And obviously the higher interest rate. So that's a big increase of just under $1.7 million. So that's been a positive for us. In the materials and services budget line item, there's a $2.8 million variation, so and it's a reduction in expenditure. As I said before, $1.5 million for gravel material for the roads is not there. And there were other road grants not received, so that reduced other roads expenditure by in the order of $1.7 million. So I encourage you to, there's a lot of work that goes into these and, goes into quite a bit of detail. I'd encourage you to have a look at them, and if you've got any queries, certainly feel free to talk to me offline and or ask questions now, and away we go.
Thank you, Mr. Bryson. Question from Councillor Dane. Thank you.
Just a question to Mr. Foster and me. Being a new council in the way that it was presented. Page 151, well, it says council's total cash as of 30th June was 43.715, which is slightly different than you just quoted, Mr. Ross, million. Of this 35.12 million is externally restricted, 8.52 million is allocated in the report externally restricted, leaving a figure of 0.068 million unrestricted. Is that figure of 0.86 million to a layman basically just is that slush spending money? Is that meaning it's not allocated? So it's a figure of $680,000. Thank you.
To the chair.
So that amount is $68,000 that I misspoke before about. Essentially that is unallocated to, it's effectively unallocated and it's not restricted. So the report that we're going to ask council to look at just ensures that, we've got the funds that we need to complete the projects that we've identified that we want to complete. Importantly, that report around internal restrictions also includes the prepayment of the financial assistance grant, so that we don't start spending like the proverbial drunken sailor in last financial year, and then get into this financial year and we spend all that money on other things. There's also some funds that related to carryover projects, where projects run over a 2-year period, and we need to make sure that we keep those funds and not spend that on other things, because we need to complete the project. So in one sense, you might think that $68,000 is not a lot of wiggle room, but when you add those things over, when we roll those over into our operational into our operations in each financial year, there's certainly enough cash to keep us afloat. But when you look through these documents here, one of the important is on page 63, some of the ratios that they have there, and other than the operating performance ratio, which is in a sense our top of loss, and own source operating revenue ratio, in all the other areas, we're actually covering it, very much exceeding the benchmarks. And one of the ones of interest is the one around cash expense cover ratio, and that essentially says if cash stopped coming in the door today, how long could we continue to operate? The benchmark is, I think it's 3 months, and our at the end of last financial year, we operate for 18 months, then to close the doors. So that sort of gives us an idea that there is, we've got enough liquidity to keep ourselves going, and and I think that's a good one for us to get to mind.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kane, right. Is there any other questions? Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimous. Thank you. 6.6, internally restricted funds. At the 30th of June 2024, the recommendation that Council 1 approve the following amounts in internally restricted funds at the 30th of June 2024 as detailed below. The Reserve Assets Management. Purpose: funds set aside for replacement of existing property other than road infrastructure, plant and equipment, IT infrastructure, the amount of $1,373,620. Employee leave entitlement, funds that have been restricted to cover a proportion of council's discounted leave liability, which equates to 40% coverage of $804,616. Quarry remediation, funds set aside to remediate quarry at $100,000. The financial assistant grant operational, advance payment received for operational purpose from the Local Government Grants Commission of $2,886,879. The financial assistant grant road, advance payment received for local road maintenance from the Local Government Grants Commission of $1,554,473. Information technology, funds allocated by the council for the business remediation project upgrade to Civica Authority of $250,000. Funds carryover, funds unspent on work in progress projects of $327,500. Plant and vehicle replacement, funds set aside for replacement of existing vehicles and equipment of the council of $1,231,360. Do I have a motion? Councillor Carwin. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Robinson. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Robinson. Sorry, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Lawson.
I just had a question regarding if we need entitlement, waiting to, 100% coverage. I was wondering if that was an industry standard or whether that's just something that we come up with. And just, I was trying to look up what our most recent reliability currently was, because it's a fairly significant amount. And I'm just wondering whether it's enough going forward, and also whether it would include any loadings in that 40% that we're liable for.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 40% is an industry standard, and it sort of reflects the fact that not everyone's just going to resign on the same day, and we have turnover in the order of 10%. So we certainly, when people leave, that's really what they need. We need to really be focused upon them. When they leave, we've got the ability to pay for their leave entitlement. So that's fundamentally what it is, and that is everything that a person will be owed when they exit the organisation.
Councillor Robertson.
Oh, no, it's just.
Oh, you. Councillor Second. Right, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yep, thank you.
Just one question. Councillor Lawson clarified the leave one that I had. I note $100,000 has been set aside to remediate the quarry. I'm just wondering if there's any background information as to how that number was calculated across several council quarries, or if it is just the main one. Thank you.
General Manager.
Through Mr. Mayor, Councillor Simkin, it's a good question, that one. I don't know the background to that. I think the auditors have questioned that as well. So if you don't mind, can we take that one on notice and get back to you and all the other councillors as well? Thank you.
Happy, Councillor Second. Anything else?
No, thank you very much. That's great.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Yeah. 6.7 Statement of Investments, September 2024. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the statement of investments as of the 30th of September 2024 is appended. Do I have a motion? Councillor Cohen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Allen. Anyone wish to speak to the motion?
It's okay.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.8. Quarterly Budget Review Statement for the period ending the 30th of September 2024. The recommendation that Council 1 adopts the Quarterly Budget Review Financial Statement as appended at Annexure A for the period ended 30th September 2024, incorporating the variations disclosed as a revised budget. Do I have a motion? Councillor Lawson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cohen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lawson.
Questions. The first one might have a similar answer to what we discussed already, which was just what the variance on materials and contracts was in relation to. The other one that I had was in relation to the contracts registered there for Hunter H2O. for the dam safety study and consultancy of 119,490. And there was also another amendment that was mentioned of 269,082 for critical interval analysis. I was just wondering if those were different contracts, if they overlap, and were they approved by council as a separate contract, or were they under the original contract? Sorry, there's several facets to that. Thank you.
General Manager.
Through Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lawson, I won't put Mr. Sargi on the spot there. I don't know if you have the answers to that, but we want if you do. Oh, okay, very good.
So unless, like, I mean, that's a contract between three council. So that's a council report coming on that. So there's actually to use consultant for the water treatment plants and stuff like that. That's that contract. So yeah, so few other lots involved in that contract. And the other one is separate to, they both are different contracts. And they both been approved by council.
Answer the question, Councillor Lawson, or do you want further?
Partially, so there's a number of coming to council, is that correct?
That's correct.
Councillor Lawson was asking about the materials and contracts, which I got into.
That's Mr. Frost will answer part of the question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lawson inquired about the variation for materials and contracts in the order of $170,000. That related to two projects. One was the Werris Creek pool works that we needed to do to try and resolve the leak issue. The other related to the sports art down at Midland Road.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Sankin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick one looking at page 166 of the business paper, which I can't see the reference for where that is in the QBR. I note there's approximately $493,000 as actual income for works, maintenance and construction. Is that income received under the council's RMCC, or is that something different?
Any question then? I'll through the general manager.
Talk slowly one into that.
Can you refer me to that page again?
Page Charlie, Councillor Simpkin, please.
It's page 166 of the business paper. I don't know what the reference to the actual part of the report is.
It might be 164 on.
We are in 6.8, aren't we? Annex 1.
That one. We'll be talking about this one.
Yeah. Income and expenses budget review statement.
Yep. I see it's page 164.
Yeah, the same.
Oh, sorry, for some reason mine's reading 166. There must have been a change.
Yeah. That's actually an income from RMCC. That's right.
Yeah, copy. Thank you.
Right, councillor Simpson, right? Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously, thank you. 6.9, State of the Shire Report, 2022, 2024. The recommendation of Council 1, receive and note the State of the Shire Report 2022 to 2024 as required under the Integrated Planning and Reporting Guidelines of 2021. Office of Local Government, OLG, appended at Annexure A. 2, note that the report will be appended to the annual report 2023-2024 being submitted to the Minister for Local Government and published to Council's website by the 30th of November 2024 pursuant to section 428(5) of the Local Government Act of 1990. Do I have a motion? Councillor Lawson. Do I have a second, please? Councillor Robertson. So member wish to speak to the motion. Councillor Lawson.
I sent through a few questions. I sent through a few questions and comments on this one that I think that you also summary have been. One thing I noted in particular was Eric talked about our growth management strategy being in a final draft phase. I don't believe that's the case because council has asked that we go back and revisit it again. So I just wanted to note that one. And also, I know that there's tonnage figures for Crinby landfill. Now, I believe it's in Weybridge and Low Tree, so I'm assuming those are estimates. That's the question. Is that the case that they are just estimates?
The General Manager.
So those are estimated key mechanisms. So we done like or we used to consider to do the form analysis and the numbers that they come up with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just in that case, we should probably just note on there that they are in fact estimates rather than actual figures.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? I'd just like if someone could just give us, Mr. Price, or someone a quick overview of what the State of the Shire Report means, so the new councillors and the general public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As part of the integrated planning and reporting cycle that councils need to get into, one of the things that we do is develop a community strategic plan, which is a long-term 10-year vision statement and visionary approach to what our community wants the community to be as we move forward. In the community strategic plan, there's obviously some elements that are absolutely council responsibility, and there are other elements that where council may advocate particular things, and there may be some other things that are just purely responsibilities of other levels of government or the private sector or whomever, or a combination of both. The State of the Shire Report looks to report upon progress over the last, typically it's 4 years, but given the shorter council cycle recently, it is for the period of the current council. So you'll see some things in there that council doesn't have a lot of impact on, such as unemployment rates, and a few of those sort of larger economic indicators. There's certainly some things in there that we do have impact on, and it is about developing swimming pool down at Crinby and the things that we're doing around Works Creek Pool and a range of those things as well. So it really is a bit of a snapshot of what the community's aspirations are in terms of the Liverpool Plains LGA government area, and we need to report on that. Where the council gets more involved is in the delivery program, which is a 4-year plan of what this council is looking to achieve over its term, and that is something that will be developed early in the new year for the council's consideration. And then linked to that is the operational plan, which is essentially the budget and the first year of the delivery program. So that's really targeting on things that council has significant responsibility for. So there's a number of different documents that we need to report on and form part of the integrated planning reporting framework. And the delivery program will, I imagine, pull out elements of a community strategic plan as council actions that the council might want to continue with and start to deliver on in the next 4 years.
If anyone else would speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.10, the annual report for 2023-2024. The recommendation that Council 1 endorse the annual report 2023-2024 as appended at Annexure A pursuant to Section 428 of the Local Government Act of 1993. 2, note that the annual report will be submitted to the Minister for Local Government and published to Council's website by the 30th of November 2024, pursuant to Section 428, brackets 5 of the Local Government Act of 1993. Do I have a motion? Councillor Allen. Do I have a second? Councillor Robinson. Does the member wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. 6.11, annual tabling of disclosure of interest returns. The recommendation that Council 1 note the annual tabling of the disclosure of interest returns by councillors, senior staff and designated persons. Do I have a motion? Councillor Cohen. Do I have a second? Councillor Lawson. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Speak.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Right. All in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.12, Community Funding Program Round 1, 2024-2025. The recommendation of Council 1 approve the following grants: Werris Creek Lions Club, $2,000, Sunflowers on the Plains, $2,000, Werris Creek Community Garden, $2,000, and 2, approve the remaining $4,000 from round 1 to be carried over to round 2. Do I have a motion? Councillor Robinson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cohen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I think it's a good move to support the community and show that we are putting some value back in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just noticed the last few of these rounds that we seem to have some difficulty getting enough people to apply for the full $10,000 there. Just wondering if there's anything that prevents us from maybe upping the limit of the amount applied for the $2,000, because there might be some community projects that require a bit more money. Just given that we don't seem to be filling the whole 5 positions each time. Thank you.
Councillor Lawson to the GM.
Certainly, we haven't fully allocated the funding available this time, but I do recall that at our last meeting, there was certainly well in excess of the funds we had available applied for. But, you know, that's sort of by the by. We certainly are able to bring to council the policy and the funding guidelines, and council can choose to do what they think is the most appropriate thing to encourage more people to participate. And in often when you see these applications, the fact that there's a $2,000 limit doesn't necessarily stop people asking for more, but we apply obviously the council's policy and guidelines in relation to it. Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Councillor Lawson.
Yeah, correct. Obviously, the last one that I do recall times previously it has been fully allocated, and maybe we just need to look at when that limit was last applied, because if it's been quite some time with inflation and that we might need to up the amount there. So obviously, I encourage groups to apply for this because it's there to be used by the community, and we want to be able to get it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Simpson.
Just interested as to some background. I can see that there was 4 applications, or if I'm reading this correctly, 4 applications and 3 have been recommended for funding. I'm not across what the guidelines are, but could someone provide a brief commentary around that last item for the high school? Didn't get the recommendation in this case.
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The guidelines state that organisations whose core business is educational, religious or medical will not be considered for funding. And I think one of the things that councils often rail about is cost shifting. And obviously the Crendai High School is a state-owned school, and in a sense we're sort of being a little bit hypocritical. On one hand, we get frustrated with the state government and cost shifting, yet on the other hand, we're having to assist, what is a state-owned entity and should be funded to the right level.
Councillor Simpson, you happy with that?
Yeah, satisfied with that. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Councillor Gunn.
Just a question to you, Mr. Mayor, in relation to the applicants when they applied for assistance under these grants. They asked for a budget in any shape or form so that we have some guideline as to what the costs might be and what we want for the assistance.
Yes, is the short answer. And I recall last year we rejected an application because we didn't believe that their project was actually stacked up financially, and that we didn't think that they'd be able to deliver it with the council funding. So we certainly go through that. We ask them to provide us that information. We want to make sure that these projects and initiatives, are able to be fulfilled and achieved, and that's what we want. And yeah, so we certainly pay attention to that.
Yes.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Excuse me. 6.13 Infrastructure Environmental Services Directorate Report, October 2024. Recommendation that Council won't receive and note the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Directorate Report for the month of October 2024. Do I have a motion? Councillor Lawson. Second, please. Councillor Appleton. The mover wishes to speak to the motion. Councillor Lawson.
I understand the director's not here at the moment, so this has to be taken on notice. It's fine. I just wanted if we could have a bit of an update to the bridge replacement project for Yarra Creek Bridge. And just wondering what sort of interim measures are in place when that bridge gets replaced, basically how the road keeps going during that time with construction.
The general manager.
Mr. Mayor, so, the project has been started, so we're getting, so we've done geotechnical, environmental, and, the environmental and study already. So we are in the process of making the technical ones. So the plan is to put a tender by the in Jan. So it will get design and construct tender. So the plan is to allow traffic through, like we put like an automated route while we do the construction. But still it's near the railway corridor. We are still working at 50 meters long. So that's something that we need to consider when it comes to the design stage. So part of the contract is like the contractor should come up with a solution how to incorporate traffic while they do the construction. So yeah.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against Councillor Robinson?
I'm just interested on how the areas of the 3 EV chargers were chosen under what criteria. And I've also been talking to people over the Yarra Bridge, and they're also bringing up about weeping weirs to be put in to try to slow the water down as well, to town plan care as well as other contractors. Thank you.
The general manager.
I might take that one, put the good data. So
Yeah, that, Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just came in conversation about the day regarding the submissions for a new meter income supply for the fields and the new aquatic centre. I see it's been in the hands of Essential Energy as far as building design. Just wondering, is there been any further updates on that particular project? Being that possibly the first consideration was just by the lighting. I made mention this the other day regarding the possible needs for multiple metering, etc., for the different functions that occur in that area, including the aquatic centre. How are we going to get that?
Through the general manager.
again, the same thing, councillor, through Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to get that one on that.
Mr. Frost is going to have a crack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is important that Nathan responds to this, or Mr. Skilly responds to this, but I am aware that he has been working with local projects in relation to the pool. Their electrical people or persons that they've had, obviously with Central Energy as well, to come up with the right outcome. So I think Mr. Sarge has got the right approach in getting advice from Mr. Skelly, but there's certainly consideration and work being done on that.
Councillor
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Stead. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Mayor. My question just relates to property management. Going back to just noticed our vacant council lands are currently being assessed for appropriate for approval to advertise for lease. It's my impression that we're supposed to then report on these lands and council properties that are going to be decided as whether we're going to lease them, sell them or whatever, that there would be a report done back to council prior to anything being finalised, and this would tend to make me believe that once that report is in the hands of one agency, that they will continue to currently assess any properties and put them out there as an adverse to lease. Because I'm understanding we'd have some input in this prior to any decisions for those properties.
General Manager.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, Councillor Khan, in terms of the, I guess, the strategic consideration of both council lands and property, that's certainly is the plan that council will be provided with a list of properties and recommendations as to what the future action for that might be in relation to that particular comment there in relation to council vacant plans. Might have to get back to you on that one. I'm not exactly sure the number, whether it's what the details are on that one. So if I take that one at notice and get back to you on that one, I know that again, I won't decide you to comment on that.
Councillor Garland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. 6.14, amending fees and charges, EV charger fees. Recommendation that Council 1 amend the 2024-2025 fee and charges, fees and charges to include the following fees for electric vehicle charging. A, charging fee of 50 cents per kilowatt hour inclusive of GST. B, idle fee of $1 per minute inclusive of GST following a 15-minute grace period. 2, place the proposed fees and charges for electric vehicle charging on public exhibition for a period of 28 days and adopt the proposed fees as exhibited, subject to no submissions being received. Do I have a motion? So Lawson, or a seconder? Councillor Cohen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lawson.
I was actually going to ask a question prior to the motion, but I realised the difficulty we had with this when it was first installed is that we had to charge sort of the upper level of rates could be because we had no fee set by council, and as it's shown in this recommendation, we have to publicly exhibit all the fees and charges for a period of 28 days. Just wondering, when it comes to something like this that is influenced by the market, is there a way that our fees can be more flexible without having to go on a 28-day exhibition each time? For instance, say that the market prices became cheaper or dearer, which we either want to take advantage of or we lose out because people don't use it because it's too expensive. Do we then have to go to another 28-day exhibition just to change this each time, or is there some way we can link it to the current market prices?
The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is a very good question, Councillor Lawson, and if you have a look at some of our fees and charges, there are some which are subject to negotiation, which is usually around private works that Mr. Sarju's department might do. It's really difficult to have a fixed rate in there. I agree with you that it would be ideal that there was some flexibility there, because I can foresee, as you pointed out, where there is a market change, our ability to react to that market change would be limited. Firstly, to get a report to council, get approval from council within the 28 days, and then the market may change again. So I don't, off the top of my head, have a solution that we could implement right at the minute. I'm open to suggestions, but I do take the point that it is a good one.
So,
Happy to go ahead with the recommended motion for today, but I just wondered if that's something maybe we could look into for the future so that we could set it up to be a bit more flexible. Thank you.
Councillor Lawson. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Robinson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's just my concern that, one location tonight keeps getting hit. Also, the one at Willow Tree has a board hit.
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I understand the one in Corindine lines being attended to that have been damaged, and the one in Willow Tree, the drainage there will be fixed as well within short order. So, thank you.
Councillor Robinson.
Just another question, like if it's deemed to be just a designated EV charging system, but parties have to be a lot bigger, what happens with the vehicles that have the parking or charging location at the front? They can't be used. Yeah.
General Manager, electric cars.
Mr. Mayor, so as you all know, like it's actually a trial, so we only start with. So the best method moving forward, we might need to write to draft committee and get it uploaded through the draft committee and make it as a designated EV charging station. Starts this small. So at the moment, it's not like a designated EV parking space.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Robinson.
Working again? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, there is a sign being placed there to say that it's designated EV area.
General Manager. Oh, sorry.
So you are right, but like, I mean, as I said, I need to go through again through draft committee and make sure all the dimensions are right. So that we can make it as a designated chart. Like, I mean, at the moment, it's actually a trial. But like that's your point. I mean, we can't, like, when you say that you're right, it doesn't look like, it's not like it's like, it's saying it's a designated charging area as part of the trial. To make it as a designated charging station, we need to take the draft company and get it downloaded through draft company. So that's something that we need to do. After the trial.
Very much. James. Suffice.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Kane.
Mr. Mayor, just reading the motion in detail, it really does seem that Mr. Scully has thought quite well ahead, and shows that entering a contract period of 4 years will cover the energy cost. And again, Councillor Lawson was, I'm guessing, the electricity charge set in 12 monthly basis anyway. So I would imagine that if we are on the market ballpark of that figure, providing it has no direct costs, show us community. As far as costing, we even figure out, I'd imagine in a 12-month period, we could just continually increase because by the economy scale, nothing's going to be cheaper. So I think proposal looks quite sound.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Did you need a response from anyone? Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Against? Councillor Robinson is against the motion, so it's carried. 6.1, Local Traffic Committee meeting of the 5th of November 2024. The recommendation of Council 1 endorse the minutes of the Local Traffic Committee meeting held on the 5th of November 2024 as appended at Annexure A. 2, note that the report will be provided, note that a report will be provided to the December 2024 ordinary meeting of council regarding the change of the school bus route for Coringo Public School. Do I have a motion? Councillor Lawson. Second, please. Councillor Robinson. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this traffic committee meeting, design was presented, although I was not present, concerning a motion that I put forward 2 years ago to council. So it's taken some time to get to the point of being discussed. Unfortunately, some of the things have changed between then and now, and it looks like there are a few too many obstacles in the way of that at the moment. I do want to note, however, that the problem still stands. There is still very busy. There's buses and cars and children all over the road in that section at Nowlan Street and Nowlan Avenue, Munro Street. So I am concerned that there is still a safety issue there. With regards to the pedestrian crossing route, I suggested then that we should look at a pedestrian crossing or school crossing on Nowlan Street, just down from Nowlan Avenue. Steps there, because there is a lot of children that seem to wander all over the road and not know exactly where to cross. There's a lot of bus traffic coming up the hill, and there's a lot of car traffic coming down the hill and turning out from Nowlan Avenue. The idea of narrowing the road there, I'm not sure that would address the problem without a crossing. In fact, I think it would actually make it more dangerous in that a false sense of confidence in crossing the road for blisters or something there. I also wouldn't support narrowing the road because traffic tends to form 2 lanes down the bottom intersection with Hawker Street, and I think we need to look at that as a separate issue. But yeah, I really appreciate being able to come along at least to observe the next traffic committee meeting. Just, yeah, have a look at those issues together. I really would like some of these people that are on the committee to perhaps come and observe at 3:25 p.m. what is actually going on there. Thank you.
Councillor Lawson. Is there we'll start with Councillor Simkin. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is the date correct on those meeting minutes? Because I think it notes 28th of August. Are they the correct minutes for the November meeting?
Pass that one off. General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think you are correct, Councillor Simpson. That's not the correct date. The meeting was held early in November, I think. So, yeah, apologies for that. It must be a cut and paste, I think.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. So can we confirm that those minutes are accurate to the meeting on the 5th of November?
So that's a question. What you want to say that they are the 5th of November, not the 28th of August. We probably can't do that since Mr. Kelly's not here. He was.
Yeah, we'll wait for that one. Further to that, I know that Councillor Allen is the delegate for that traffic committee. For the traffic committee, I just, obviously, it notes that Councillor Allen wasn't present and I'm the alternate, and I wasn't asked either. So I'm just wondering if Councillor Allen was invited to attend.
I was going to attend. I had other duty. Nothing else on that we get with.
Can I just interject, that was held in August?
No, I wasn't the last one, Councillor Simpkin, and I'd have to go back through my diary, but I was present at the last traffic committee when most of these decisions were, because it was probably the first time in the traffic committee we'd had actually a full quorum of police, and state roads and council. So it was a very informative meeting. Probably, I don't even know why I was there. But it was the outcome was that I think the ladies from New South Wales thought that the road down on the street, I think that goes to up to the hospital, is too wide. Put a crossing on, so that's why they were thinking about that. The only way you can do it is if you narrow it, so the kids didn't have to walk that far across the road. I can see Councillor Lawson's opinion of depends where you put that crossing is, because people do make 2 lanes down the bottom. Yes, it is a very wide street. And then the school change of the bus route has come back to the public school making a decision on what they want to do, because they've got to go and change a lot of things in their space before council can move forward. So the principal's gone away to look at what they can do. They're going to try and get little kids from one area down to near the oval. There's a lot of work that they have to do, shelters and all the rest of it. So she wasn't quite convinced that they probably move forward. So we won't move forward with our project of works or scope of works if we have to do anything until they decide what's going to go on. Since the principle has changed, I think what the school want to do has changed, but we're not quite sure that. That's why they were going to do some investigations and then come back to another meeting. And as I say, I think everyone went and had a look at where the down the street was and how wide it was, and I think that's they'll probably discuss that at the next traffic meeting and make a plan. But I was at that meeting. I don't know what it was, August, but it was a while ago.
Sorry, I am confused. So is the content of the minutes, as noted in the business paper, accurate to what was discussed on November 5th, but we don't know because Mr. Skelly is not present?
Through the general manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. What?
Mr. Gentleman is not well, so Nathan given me a heads up in regards to this meeting. So I reckon what happened was that the date is all in the council report. It was actually the 5th of November. So we actually presented some designs and recommendation to the traffic committee. So some designs has been given based on the explanation that council has made, and the standards and stuff has been presented to the traffic committee because that data has been provided by my team. So that's been considered in the traffic committee meeting, and that relates to what we discussed in the agenda. So I believe this is part of our traffic committee meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Simpson. Councillor Simpson, can you hear me?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lawson.
I think that we need to seek clarification on, firstly, the date of these minutes. Because as Councillor Simpkins pointed out, he should be contacted as the alternate if this in fact took place later, but I thought this was prior to the election. So I believe that's why you were there as the alternate. However, I really feel that there wasn't enough information given in the minutes regarding that school bus route being presented. But I feel that there has been some information presented to us now about what happened. It just would have been good to have that up front in the minutes recorded there. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've noticed the item 6 pedestrian crossing reduced speed signage requested Single Street Works Crew design presentation. Being a councillor from Works Crew, this has been a very talked about topic in the community for many months, if not years, and this actually was raised with a newly formed committee with the previous mayor and general manager attending. And I'm reading this, I'm very disappointed that it's now adjourned to the next meeting. It's something that has to be moved upon. As a local and as an emergency worker, we have had so many near misses where the proposed brook crossing is to go in Morris Creek. For councillors that aren't aware, the aprons were produced when the Main Street Morris Creek was upgraded some 15 years ago. So we had aprons entering onto the roadway to travel across the transverse on one side, the eastern side to the western side, where our public toilet is, as well as our parkland, skate park. Yeah, on the main road, we cannot get pedestrian crossing. It's absolutely disgraceful. The speed management is basically nil through the community on that Main Street at the moment. It really needs to be brought to a head. Again, I don't know if it's next meeting as needed. Why? I think this is a critical issue that has to be addressed. It's beyond maybe. As I said, the road works were previously done to have some type of crossing speed mitigation put in place. We have elderly people with walkers and mobilised carts trying to get across the main street from the shopping centre and use the toilets. One is a disabled toilet. There are children trying to get across with parents hanging on their hands to the two park areas. And as you can imagine, during this particular time of year with the heavy vehicles rattling through the community at 50 cars, it's pretty critical. So, like Councillor Lawson, I'd really like to be part of delegate to sit and address my concerns and hopefully try and do something, actually get something done. It can't be that hard to get a foot crossing or pedestrian crossing and a main thoroughfare that carries 5,000 vehicle movements a week, and it goes funnels through our CBD. And as I said, it's a disaster waiting to happen. As an emergency worker, I have been involved in vehicle accidents that have occurred while they've stopped and let people cross the road. Really are letting the community down by not addressing this in a timely manner. And I don't think adjourn to next meeting and then I read next meeting as needed is at all acceptable to community works group. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in favour? Darren, unanimous. Thank you. Oh,
It was against.
no, sorry. Were you against it, Councillor Singh?
Yeah, I voted against it.
Sorry, so carried. Yeah. All right, so 6.16 DCP variation. DA 2024/086 carport 62 Panyara Street, Werris Creek. The recommendation of Council 1, grant consent subject to conditions as detailed in Schedule 1. Conditions of development consent DA 2024/086. Relevant application DA 2024/086 to be determined pursuant to section 4.16 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act of 1979. Do I have a motion? So Lawson, do I have a seconder? So Allen, does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Lawson.
Just to say that I'm satisfied looking through all the information there that there's not going to be any adverse impact with these variations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Robinson.
In this situation, it's just a little bit unusual that it's actually a garage out the front of the dwelling. So a bit of common sense has prevailed, I think, in just making it easier for people to get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, all in, hang on. I will call for a division. All in favour? This time, and Councillor Cohen, Councillor Lawson, Councillor Simpkin, Councillor Kane, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Allen, Councillor Cudmore, all in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.17 DCP variation DA 2024/85 dwelling and garage 22 Wilmont Street, Willow Tree. Recommendation of Council 1 grant consent pursuant to section 4.16 (1) (a) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act of 1979 to development application 10.2024.25.1 for the erection of dwelling and garage for 22 Learmont Street, Willow Tree, comprising lot 1 in DP 1290433, subject to conditions as listed in Schedule 1 at the end of this report. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Lawson, Councillor. Do I have a second? Councillor Allen. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Oh, Councillor Simpkin.
Just a quick question with regard to 3.1.1, the 3.1.1 requiring a 6 metre setback, and this variation requires a 3. I note that the block is at an intersection. Has consideration been given? I know consideration's been given with regard to pedestrians, but I can't see anything about consideration with regard to sight distances and how that may affect the existing intersection arrangements with warrants for stop signs and give ways, etc.
The General Manager.
Mayor, so we have done an analysis on the site distance issues and the QA and stuff like that. So which warrant, there won't be any site distance issue with this development that we can find during our assessment.
Happy, Councillor Simpkin.
I apologise, my line's not great, so I didn't hear that, but I thought I put together that the site distance was assessed and there wasn't an issue. Is that a yes to that?
That's right.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Lawson.
I was just going to note there that there is a difference between street frontage setback for the main dwelling as opposed to a garage and carport. The requirement is that it's 1 metre further back than it falls in line. So that's the reason for the 5.5 metre usual setback on the other item.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Call for a division. All in favour? Councillor Cohen, for. Councillor Lawson, Councillor Simpkin, Councillor Kane, councillor Robertson, councillor Allen, councillor Douglas. Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 7, delegates report. There's nil. Notice of motions, questions for notice, nil. 9, confidential matters, nil. The meeting closed at 4 p.m. Thank you very much. Thanks, Charlie.
She's gone.